All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to crack the code on the skill that really separates the best investors from, well, everyone else, reading financial statements. But don't worry, this isn't some boring accounting class. We're going to learn how to see the story a business is telling us through the eyes of two absolute legends, Benjamin Graham and his star student, Warren Buffett. We'll see how they find treasure that's hiding in plain sight. Let's get to it.
And this right here, this is the core idea of everything we're talking about. It's so easy to get hypnotized by the blinking lights of the stock ticker going up and down every day, but Graham and Buffett teach us that that's mostly just noise. The real work, the real secret sauce, is in understanding the actual business you're buying. And the closest thing you have to an owner's manual for that business, yep, it's the financial statements.
So that's the big question, isn't it? And spoiler alert, it's not about finding some secret formula or a magic algorithm. It's about a mindset. It's about a framework for thinking that was built by one genius and then perfected over decades by another. And that's exactly the journey we're going on today. We're going to trace that evolution.
Okay, so first things first, we have to make a really crucial mental shift here. We have to stop seeing these statements as a boring chore filled with confusing numbers. We need to start seeing them for what they really are, the biography of a company. You've got to see every single number as a piece of a puzzle, a clue about its past, its present health, and where it might be headed in the future.
And this slide really nails the difference in how these two guys started. For Benjamin Graham, the OG of value investing, reading these statements was like playing defense. It was a shield, right? To protect you from losing your money, from making a catastrophic mistake. But Buffett, he took that and ran with it. He saw it not just as a shield, but as a special kind of lens, a way to see the true economic engine of a business. He called it the language of business.
So, let's start with the master himself, Benjamin Graham. For him, investing wasn't about hitting grand slams. It was about never, ever striking out. His entire game plan boiled down to one thing: protecting the money you put in. Everything else came second.
And that leads us to his single most famous idea, the margin of safety. The concept sounds almost too simple, but it's pure genius. Step 1. You do the hard work to figure out what a business is actually worth, its intrinsic value. Step 2, you wait, and you only buy it when you can get it for way, way less than that. That gap, that discount, that's your margin of safety. It's your safety net. It's the cushion that protects you if you made a mistake or if, the world just goes crazy for a while.
All right, now let's talk about Buffett. He learned everything from Graham, but over time, he realized that just buying statistically cheap companies had its limits. Sometimes things are cheap for a reason. So Buffett didn't just throw out what Graham taught him. No way. He built on top of it. He added a super important new piece to the puzzle, the relentless search for business quality.
You can see that shift perfectly right here. See, Graham was all about the balance sheet. He was looking for hard assets, just pure statistical cheapness. Buffett, on the other hand, started focusing more on a company's long-term earnings power and the durability of its competitive advantage. He still demanded that margin of safety, but he wanted it in a fantastic business. As he famously put it, it's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price.
All right, enough theory. Let's get practical. What does this actually look like when you pull up a company's annual report? We're going to walk through the 3 key financial statements using this combined Graham and Buffett toolkit.
First up, the income statement. And here's the big takeaway. Not all profits are the same, not even close. Graham just wanted to see earnings that were stable, that wouldn't just vanish in a bad economy. Buffett adds another layer. He looks for consistency that comes from something he calls pricing power. Just think about Apple. They can raise the price of the iPhone and people still line up around the block. That's pricing power. And the red flags? You got to watch out for companies that need one-time tricks or accounting gimmicks to make their numbers look good. The best businesses just don't need to do that.
Okay, next up, the balance sheet. I want you to think of this as a company's annual checkup with the doctor. For Graham, this was all about one thing: survival. Does the company have enough cash, not too much debt? But Buffett totally gets that, and he sees something else too. He sees a strong balance sheet as a weapon. A company that isn't drowning in debt has options. And during a crisis, like in 2008 or 2020, they can go on offense while everyone else is just fighting to stay alive.
Okay, this next part is maybe my favorite. And this quote, it just says it all. You can use accounting to make profits look like pretty much whatever you want. But cash? Cash doesn't lie. And that brings us to the most brutally honest of the 3 statements.
The cash flow statement is the ultimate truth serum. Graham used it just to double-check that the profits were real. Buffett takes it a step further. He focuses on something called free cash flow. Think of it like this. It's the cash that's left over for a company after it's paid for everything it needs to stay in business. It's the pure extra cash that can be used to make the business even stronger or be returned to you, the owner. And the sign of a truly great business? They are just fountains of cash. They effortlessly turn their profits into cold, hard cash.
Okay, so we've walked through the 3 big statements. But wait, we're not done yet. Because the numbers aren't the end of the analysis. They're really just clues pointing to something much bigger: the quality of the people running the company and its position in the competitive landscape.
So a company makes all this cash. Then what? What do they do with it? This is the single biggest test of how good the management team really is. It's a fancy term called capital allocation. And they basically have 4 choices. They can put it back into the business, they can buy other companies, or they can give it back to the owners. That's us, through dividends or by buying back stock. What they choose to do here tells you everything about whether they're thinking like true owners.
And Buffett has this super simple but absolutely brilliant rule for this. He says if a manager is going to keep your share of the profits and reinvest it, they better be able to earn a higher return on it than you could get on your own somewhere else. If they can't beat that, they have a duty to give the money back to you. It's really that simple.
Now look, we gotta be real for a second. The numbers are crucial. You absolutely need them, but they don't tell you the whole story. Your financial statements aren't gonna have a line item for awesome brand or killer corporate culture. They won't tell you if some new technology is about to come and completely change the game for their industry. That's where you, the investor, have to use your own brain and judgment.
So where does all this leave us? After going through all of this, what's the takeaway? Well, we can take all the incredible wisdom from both Graham and Buffett and boil it down into one powerful, actionable checklist for ourselves.
So what does that ideal investment look like? What are we searching for? First, we want stable and understandable earnings. Second, it needs a fortress-like balance sheet that can survive anything. Third, it's got to be a reliable cash-generating machine. And finally, it has to be run by smart managers who know what to do with all that cash. Put all those things together, and you get a business with real durability, one that creates value year after year.
And that really brings us to the final big idea here. Look, you can start out like Graham, using these statements as a defense, as a tool to help you avoid losing money. And that's a great start. But the real leap, the thing that makes you an exceptional investor, is when you start using them to go on offense. It's when you learn to find the story inside the numbers, to identify those truly incredible businesses that are worth owning for a very, very long time.